Well, I can read in about 10 minutes. I can read a couple of columns that explain a lot about dying from at least one person's perspective. You guys who are mediums, I mean, you know so much about this. I will to the life between lives. I often, it can end up being a whole day's worth of seminar work. But well, I'll just read some of the backup material here. When in hypnosis, most subjects can talk about the period between lives just as easily as they can their past lives. And that despite widely disparaging religious and cultural backgrounds, all give approximately the same description of the spirit world. Now, Ruth Montgomery said that. Both Ruth and mediums I know say their clients express great joy at being dead. The psychiatrist that Ruth interviewed, who did a lot of her past life and between lives work in the 1960s, said, they, the dead, express the marvelous feeling of being so much more free and alive than they were in the physical body. On one occasion, she asked the hypnotist, now that you're dead, how do you feel? The subject answered, you're the dead one, not me. And there's a quote from Marty Hughes right here, medium in Lilydale. And even when somebody takes their own life, they are so happy to be free of the body. Now, I've had a lot of different takes on that. I don't know what I feel about what Marty says, but she says every time, even the suicides, they are just happy as can be to be free of the body. All souls have guardian angels who are here to support them, support you. We come back with the same friends and relatives and enemies. We earn the right to pick our own parents. When we pray for help in times of danger or crisis, we attract a tremendous force, a drawing of energies from the entities who protect us from harm, if the prayer is sincere. This quote is from a hypnotized subject. I am conscious of light everywhere. It seems to be wherever I think about. Souls are all around, and of course we can communicate. How? We just know. Our greatest period of development is on earth rather than here, because there we put ourselves against the obstacles, and as we surmount them, we grow in understanding. Between earthly lives, we have an expanding knowingness, and after assessing the errors of our past life, we decide the kind of obstacles which will help us to best advance in our next incarnation. Susan Austin Taylor lives in Texas, a medium, and she's always being called to help those who are dead or just in the process of dying primarily. On my radio show, she says dying is like walking through a door. A couple sitting in a restaurant, she told the story a while back of a couple. She saw them sitting in the restaurant and she sensed that they were spirits. They were not really there. And so she went over, she got up from her table and she went over to talk to them. And they said, no one will wait on us. And she told them that they were killed in an accident on their way to the restaurant. So kind of intriguing. Susan, I mean, the stories she tells about being called out of body, just, and she goes. So, but it's whenever there's a crisis, or sometimes she said even she was called a while back where a private plane had crashed in the water of a large lake, or some water, and they were way down under the water. And she was out of body, and she was down there seeing them, and the wife was just sitting on the wing, just happy as could be, and going back. Their child was in the cabin of the plane, and so was the husband, and they had all been killed upon crashing, but they were just waiting around underwater, and so she was sent to tell them, come on, guys, we're going to go, it's going to get better. Susan Austin Taylor. She's done a lot of radio shows with me, and we've worked together at festivals a couple times. So, on my radio show, if you want to scan through all of the past shows, why, she's always a good guest, and all of it is about about her latest adventures out of body. Let's see no, I don't think she does. She doesn't like to promote it very much. She doesn't really pursue this work. She'll do it. She will do it. But she and her husband have a dive shop down in Corpus Christi, I think, right in the Gulf, and that's basically their work. But she teaches the best astral projection workshop. I guess everybody who takes it. I wanted to take it so bad, but I was working in this room and she was working in the next room at this festival in Arkansas earlier this year, or last year. Anybody who's really interested about reading about death and dying, P.M.H. Atwater is a specialist on this. She's got a book that's this thick, huge book, and I've had her on the radio. And she's one of the leading researchers of what happens when you die. And a major study, it's called the Evergreen Study, and you can look that up on the web, found that only 9% of the people who died, or those who died and came back where they could interview them, experienced a panoramic life review. And in each instance, the cause of death was an accident. So why does that generate that life review? I don't know, but it's interesting. But if you want to look up P.M.H. Atwater, A-T-W-A-R-T, and then the Evergreen Study, you can find out a lot more. 9% experienced that panoramic life review. In other words, let's go over your life and see how you did. There doesn't seem to be anything that's absolutely true to every person dying. As we were talking about Isabel in regard to going to the light, I say there's a California study too, which is extensive on death and dying. It says many of the experiencers said that the light was all around them, but they didn't experience being pulled into a tunnel of light. They found themselves in a pastoral setting, but had not encountered or entered into the light to get there. So, this is from a book on spiritualism by Maurice Barbanel. Once the readjustment due to the shock has been made, we discover that we are not in a strange world. The truth is that we have already visited on thousands of occasions. We die every night. Our separation from our physical body, though, is temporary, merely because the connecting cord has not been severed, just as the umbilical cord has not been cut before we achieve our entry into this world. So the silver cord attached to the spirit body has to be severed before we can make our exit from the earth. One great factor that operates is the immutable law of attraction. Only those of like spiritual qualities can dwell in the same place in a new life. A husband and wife who were joined only by illegal ties, between whom no love existed, and who were mentally divorced from one another, will not be together in the spirit world. I know that many readers will find it hard to understand, but in the beyond, people do live in houses, though these houses are not made of brick and mortar. They are constructed out of thought, which is the most malleable of substances in the world, where thought is reality. It is a tangible to beings in the spirit world. It is just as tangible to beings in the spirit world as bricks and mortar are to us. In the lowest levels, people eat and drink, so long as they think it necessary to do so. They obtain the illusion, which of course is real to them, of what they require. And it satisfies them until they progress to a higher level, where they know this kind of substance is unnecessary. Unlike our world, there are no language problems in the afterlife, for nationality does not persist, does not exist. Thought is the only language, and telepathy the means of communication. Deception, pretense, cheating, and lying are impossible. There are no secrets. Every individual is known for what he is mentally and spiritually. Labor consists of pursuing occupations in which people express natural gifts and talents. On earth, economic and other factors often prevent these gifts from finding expression, and there are millions of square pegs in round holes. But in the beyond, there are endless opportunities for evolving these talents, the halls of music, learning, culture, education, and the teachers include those whose accomplishments brought them earthly fame. That was just some random pieces I had taken from a book I was reading a while back on that. Here's a couple columns. Do you want me to read more here or kill the time? Did he really? Yeah. Yeah, Tara did. She tried just once, but they sent her back. You know, she just decided, okay, I'm going. Was he purposely trying to get back there? Was it so nice that he desired to get back? Yeah. Yeah, wow. Yeah, Dan, you know. Yeah. Yeah, I know Daniel real well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The first time we saw Moody, we was on two trucks, and Doctor was and students in the place looked at us like a praying mantis.
Funny.
You know, what's interesting is during whatever this week, Jane, who is a co-worker who died of lung cancer,
Right.
Years ago, she came out in the meeting with Kathleen this week,
Oh.
on Saturday. But the thing is during this week, Jane came to me, and one of the things she said about being in spirit, she was, first of all, she said it was wonderful, and she said there's so much to do.
There's so much to do. Yeah.
So it's sort of
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, these are two columns. They're about. I was writing about Tara's experience. One with Jess Stern, the author, and that has continued. But this was his initial reaction, and then this one is about her uncle who died. And they're not very long, but they tell a lot of things about the dying process. So, as I write this, As I write this, Tara is in Anchorage, Alaska to attend the funeral for her uncle, Vernon Rich, and to support her mother and family during the difficult period. I am going to share some of the communications or the circumstances leading up to the death and what Tara perceived in the days following his crossing. Vern had been fighting serious health problems for years, but he was a survivor who always managed to amaze everyone by bouncing back. Tara told me a year ago, Vern will die in February of 2004. Now, sometimes I feel like I'm living in the twilight zone because such statements and unusual manifestations are commonplace in our home. Really, I will say and nod my head, but Vern crossed at 12:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, February 1st, and is survived by his wife Barbara and 5 children. When Tara alters consciousness to go up and visit her spirit guide, Abenda, her grandmother, Gwendolyn, is waiting at the bottom of the stairs to hand her flowers. Now, Tara visits Abenda regularly to do automatic writing with her for her cause and effect column, and for those who have commissioned her to obtain answers with this medium. The bottom of Tara's subjective stairway to Abenda is a level just above the lower astral plane. I perceive this as earthbound. Grandma is earthbound, Tara says. She's waiting for her children, her 3 sons and 2 daughters, to join her. Vern is the first to cross. Now, Abenda has tried to talk her into moving into higher vibrations, but she doesn't listen. Grandma Gwen was deaf in life, and she continues to play that role in death. Grandma has manifested a comfortable cottage at this level. She raises flowers and still loves to cook. She is always asking me to go with her to the cottage so she can cook for me. But Abenda does not like me lingering at this level where the entity attachment is very possible. So often reported in esoteric writing, thoughts create the reality on the other side. In her columns, Tara has reported on her continual communications with deceased New Age author Jess Stern, who was a best friend in life. Jess continues to desire food, or he did continue to desire food, until completing his adjustment to a higher vibration. He recently told Tara, "I can think of an earthly place and find myself in a similar place, but not the real place, unless I change my structure by going into that reality. The physical body is a heavy mass compared to how I feel now, but I still feel like I am Jess Stern, and I will until I take on the role of another name." Now, Vern had throat cancer. 3 weeks ago, the doctors gave him 3 months to live, but a few days before he died, they learned the cancer had spread to his lungs. Tumors in his throat were closing off his breathing, and he could no longer talk. But 24 hours before crossing, he could still get up and go to the bathroom. Now, Tara's mother asked her to help her brother make the transition. So Tara began to mentally project from our home in Malibu to Vern, who was lying in a hospital bed in Anchorage. When he talks to me, it's the same voice I remember so well, Tara would say after awakening from this kind of a session. He tells me that he is really scared, and I tell him, "You'll be okay, take my hand." He doesn't have a strong spiritual belief system, but I assure him there is nothing to fear, and his mother and grandmother will be waiting for him to help him when he arrives. Now, Tara was talking on the phone with her mother when Vern died. So within an hour, my wife induced a theta level altered state and projected to the essence of Vern. Moments later, she joined her uncle in spirit. Now, Tara had already looked back upon his body Oh, Vern had already looked back upon his body when I arrived, Tara said. Grandma Gwen and Grandma Anna were there with him. Whenever I've seen the grandmas in spirit, they have appeared much younger and much more vital than they were when they died. But to meet Vern, they made themselves look older, so he would be more comfortable and accepting of the reunion. The grandmas were all dressed up, which I thought was cute. 2 others were with him, a female spirit guide and a man named Frank. Now Vern was really glad to see me, and I said to him, "You realize I'm alive, that you've crossed?" He said yes. He was still having difficulty talking due to the throat tumors. So I asked a doctor to come and remove the tumors. This happened quickly, and although it was just a symbolic releasing, it did the trick. Vern could communicate easily and he felt better. And later, Abenda told me, "Good call on the tumor removal." Grandma Gwen was so excited she held my hand. She wanted to make a family circle, so we all held hands. Vern was quiet. He would ask me little questions like, "What do I need to do now?" And I said, "Your spirit guide or Frank will show you." I didn't really know what to do, but if you want to, I don't really know what to do, but if you want comfort, then go to your mother and grandmother. Vern started following Frank, but Grandma Gwen wanted to cook for him. He said, "I'm not ready to eat." And Frank wanted him to come to his house. But Vern was not comfortable with this. He was afraid he would not remember people's names. He did not remember Frank, so I'm not sure about that association. But Vern was worried about his wife, Barbara. I told him, "She's fine. You've made the transition, and you need to concentrate upon that for now." He told me that when he died, it was like his whole body split in half, and he was lifted out of it. I could have stopped it, but I just pulled out and up, he said. Tara left for a while to go talk to her own spirit guide, and Abenda told me that Vern would connect in and out with me all night long while I was sleeping. Of course, she's still in Malibu when all this is going on. She's just projecting to him. When Tara altered consciousness and visited Spirit the following day, she experienced a family gathering hosted by Abenda. Vern, my father, the grandmas, the true grandpas were all gathered around the table with Abenda, and I joined them. It was like old times. Tara explained the astrology. And here again, the power of this astrology, if you have somebody you can turn to, in association with the past life work, is just amazing. She said that Vern was at the most intense aspect of the mid-heaven on the hour he died. His wife Barbara was also at the most intense aspect of her chart. That's Vern's wife. And Vern's death aspects were in play in the house of death. The chart shows that he was sick. It shows he had cancer. And even it shows the financial drain due to the cancer. This was indicated in the chart as well. Unusual speech is indicated, which obviously relates to the tumors closing down his throat so he couldn't talk. And his chart shows that people would be there for him at this time. As it was, his wife, his children, brothers and sisters were all there. Loss of a mate is indicated in Barbara's chart, Vern's wife's chart. And in my mother's chart, the loss of her best friend. Now, Vern and her mom were best friends. So it was Vern's destiny to die at exactly this time. Tara was asking this. So, was it Vern's destiny to die at exactly this time? And then Tara answers it. His death was written on the day he was born. So, kind of interesting. You guys know all that already. Yeah. Well, Tara, Bob wants to do, Tara's father, Jess Stern. You know, Jess Stern wrote The Sleeping Prophet, and probably the book that really popularized Edgar Casey. And he was a best friend. He was at our house for all the family gatherings and birthdays and everything. And so when he died, she was really concerned about him, and she was tuning in to him and more or less monitoring what happened. And she just kept doing it and doing it and doing it. And so she's got a phenomenal amount of material. And Bob Friedman at Hampton Roads would like to publish it as a book. You know, maybe just calling it Following Jess Stern into Death. Yeah. Yeah, he's not in there, no. No, and the whole publishing company's been bought by San Francisco publisher now, Red Wheel Weiser. But they've absorbed Hampton Roads, and Bob is still playing an important part. So I know, on the New Ground. New Ground. What they call the New Ground, yeah.
So what you're saying is you can do like two lines regression with clients?
Yes, it can. And we'll do that after lunch. This is kind of a tee up. Sometimes if I want to do it quite fast, then I don't read all this stuff, but I have it in here in case people want to know more about living and dying and so on. I'm not a specialist at this, you know. I'm a specialist at past life regression, but not death and dying. But since we're not back yet, and I think this will be real quick, I'll read this one. Shortly after my good friend Jess Stern died, I began communicating with him via automatic writing. Now, I'm quoting Tara here. Those communications have been published beginning with the issue 79 of Soaring Spirit magazine, April 2002. Some of this writing about the afterlife has been posted on the web. Some is in the Magalog. Jess was a best-selling author, talking about them. All right. Now, here's the first writing, or one of the first writings that Jess did, which Tara sat down with automatic writing. He said, Dearest Tara, I know it has been some time since we last wrote, but I see you often and enjoy our meetings. I am becoming more accustomed to the slow pace here. I am not haranguing people for information whenever I am approached by an adult I don't know. For a while, I was interviewing everyone. And of course, he was an interviewer, you know, newspaper reporter, and just incredibly inquisitive. I have made acquaintances with some scholars. One is named Beaulivet, and the other Gastem. They also search for knowledge, and I'm very pleased to converse with them. We have come to a conclusion that death is simpler than life, but only if you have attained enough vibration to relax where you find yourself. To go to the upper levels has not crossed any of our minds. We are not tempted to go on. We are intrigued with this existence in connection with our earthly existence. There are very few bad days here in spirit. The only bad days I've run across are when someone new has arrived and is crying, and when taken to the sanctatorium. They don't yet understand where they are being led, but there is never any sinister or malicious action. The people here are all on a higher level of goodness and are like Red Cross workers, here to help, not hurt anyone. I've cried and I've whined to others, but they generally try to jolly me into a better mood or say something nice to me. I've had others ignore me, but they never talk down or be stern to stern. His way of joking. There are boundaries here. To go towards the gravitational pull of the earth is not a wise idea. And going higher does not appeal to my current structure. I can think of an earthly place and find myself in a similar place, but not the real place, unless I change my body structure by going into that reality. The physical body is a heavy mass compared to how I feel now. But I still feel like I am Jess Stern, and I will until I take on the role of another name. I asked Bolivet and Grastrom about heaven, nirvana, Mecca, and they say it is the place of all peace, above us still by many layers of vibration. I've decided I am not ready for those places yet. There is the beauty of perfection in imperfection. I am looking in this place for imperfection, but I find it there are none. Everyone fits perfectly in their job assignment. Of course, even though the guardians have reached an understanding of their higher purpose, they have usually reached a level of goodness or bravery to make them suitable for their jobs. Because even when they are planning to be keeping watch, there are consuls that allow them to be given that post. They don't get the job only because of good fuzzy feelings. They have earned the right to stay at this vibration. The reason so many people do not feel comfortable or available to connect to their primary guide is because they were assigned to them. I am a good example with bags. I come from a line of investigators and priests, and many of my loved ones have moved on to higher vibration. I don't know what that says about me, in parentheses. So Bags, who has been a priest with me in many lifetimes, primarily Atlantis, came to be my guide. I don't know if he ever loved me as a friend, and I doubt very much that he does now. I've bagged on old Bags plenty. He frustrates me as never knowing hardly a thing, kind of an angel. Bags is never very far away, and he has 7 years left to stay with me in his contract. Will he break the contract? No, even though I think he would like to. As you can see, I still feel feisty enough, though I'm over here now. But he says, because that is our shared contract. But he stays because that is our shared contract. I plan to make an effort to be friends with him so I can enjoy better time with him. I need to let go of my need for knowledge. I need to let go of Bag's willingness to accept me and others without having to know very much. I am obviously still being influenced by my old life. My friends and family who were most interesting to me were people who questioned and quested. Tara, you asked me about who is in charge. This remains an unknown to me. There are consuls that seem to know what they are doing. It's all very organized. Do I feel any foul play? No. I've discussed it with B and G, and we are all under the same impression. This is such a big picture. It could be an ant virus to an elephant story. Humans are like ants, relatively small organic matter on Earth's surface. The Godhead is something great and could frighten us with his power and presence. So he stays hidden behind the universal curtain. Humans are pleased with the mystery. Humans strive unknowingly back to the secrets that hold life. It is probably why we die on earth, part of our curiosity about God, to gaze upon him if we can. Is there such a thing as his face? We know he is an energy, but a face I might question. We could ask Bags. Now, he was being humorous for Tara's sake. You ask if you would lose the Jess you know if I reincarnated. I am part of a soul. Each soul must round itself out in 30 ways before human characteristics, 30 ways on each facet of these characteristics. As an example, if I decided to explore compassion by being a missionary in Africa, but I left my family in another country to suffer, I would have to come back to be compassionate and responsible. There are other people, souls, who come in to be part of this principal soul. So you can have 900 lifetimes or transfer and use another lineage. These souls are like pure energy grids. Everything means something in relationship to pure energy for the cosmos. But generally, you stay with your soul glob. Pretty name. Maybe you, Tara, can think of a better one. The soul has tremendous power and can never die, but it must be replenished with energy to again mesh with the Divine One. I'll reincarnate on my soul glob, as I certainly want to take with me the energy of people and knowledge accumulated. I may come back in about 20 years when science turns another curve, and it will be wondrous on earth. I would love to go into all sorts of subjects with you. Be well. I will meet you again evermore. Hi to Richard and my birthday girl and the boys. I love you. Just Stern. So.
You have that on your website.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He tried to go to the doctor and
Yeah.
they blocked him.
Yeah.
First they had small ones, what you bring, and whatever gifts. And he said nothing. And they blocked him and wouldn't let him go in. I don't remember exactly the figures the way they were, but he might map the whole place. Now, there's one focus out there that actually the people are comatose, in comas. They're there.
Mm-hmm.
They're there.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the largest area out there, the part of his mouth. Okay?
Yeah.
It's the biggest place is belief systems.
Wow.
Of course, you got the hospital, you got, now I was thinking, that part the other day, you know that.
The, yeah.
I went to the actual and went to the farm.
Yeah.
I lived in the coast.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a hospital for those that go out with massive trauma.
Yeah.
Burning the
I've
town.
heard that many times about the hospitals.
And they're put back together, so to speak.
Yeah.
They're put not in their body. And so there's other kinds of places where they're getting ready to come back.
What book were you reading? Were you reading that last one he did about really where he was really stretching it?
The years of the times that I've been there.
You've been to the Monroe Institute, yeah.
For several years.
Yeah, yeah.
Seven.
Oh, have you been that many, huh?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in this.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, do you know Joseph Nail's wife, Scooter? Well, she's way up in the astral, what your wife is into.
Mhm.
Okay? And that's been, and it's one of Monroe's daughters.
Yeah.
And she married Joseph Nail.
Okay, Monaco, all right. Yeah. Now, the other daughter recently died, I understand.
That was Laura.
Yeah,
And she was on the institute.
yeah.
Now, there's a stepdaughter, Eddie, but Joseph has told me 3 times.
Mhm.
He says, I'll get out of bed. I go turn on the light switch. And my finger goes all over.
Yeah.
I gotta go back and get my body.
He got to go back and get his body. Yeah, he's so used to going. He was hypnotized too much.
So anyhow, yeah, I enjoy it.
Yeah, I know. Everybody seems to. I'd love to go there someday. I'd love to have that.